Happy Super Bowl Sunday. I'm not going to lie, this is a tough Super Bowl for me because I want the Patriots to lose. I think most people do, except for Michelle. And I don't really want the Seahawks to win. And I'm really not very excited about the halftime show, so I think this year I'll be watching for the commercials. Because the Super Bowl every year, they always give the good commercials, the new commercials. But do you ever watch TV and you notice those prescription drug commercials? The ones that play over and over and over and over again. Sometimes they play twice in the same commercial break. And they always start with this same sort of situation, right? Some sort of illness that you may have or someone you know may have. And they always start, "Are you having trouble sleeping? Is insomnia or stress keeping you up at night? Do you feel like you're not getting your 6 to 8 hours of sleep that you need every single night?" And they try to convince you that they have this miracle drug, right? That once you take it, you'll be cured of all your symptoms immediately. And they proceed to tell you about it and tell you all the good things that it'll do for you, and it'll make this go away and it'll make this feel better. It says, "Not sleeping great? Now you can finally do something about it with Decivia. With Decivia, you can finally get the sleep you've been looking for. Decivia can easily correct any problem that you have, and you can finally get the rest and sleep you deserve." And everything is all fine and everything's good until they say, "Decivia is not for everyone." And that's when they proceed to list off all of the side effects that the medication may have. And have you ever noticed, every one of these commercials, as they're listing off the side effects, they do it in front of some peaceful, calm background, or people are smiling really big, really enjoying life, doing incredible, amazing things, or maybe they're just living normal life, but they're doing it with a huge smile on their face as they list off these side effects. It's like they're saying, we want you to pay attention to the happy, not the side effects. There are side effects, but you don't need to worry about them. And they cycle through, they say, "Decivia is not for everyone. Side effects may include nausea, dry mouth, itching, having trouble breathing, diarrhea, drowsiness, hallucinations, nightmares, gambling, the growth of an extra finger, switching from Apple to Android. Other more severe side effects may include turning into a zombie, alien abductions, even death. If you happen to die, please stop taking Decivia immediately and call your doctor." See, out of context, I'm Gen Z, so during the commercials, I'm sitting on my phone scrolling, and I catch something like that. Whoa, switching from Apple to Android, that's a bad side effect. But some of these side effects, maybe not that one, but some of these side effects sound like they're worse than the symptoms that actually cause you to take the drug in the first place. And as you're watching the commercial, you don't really catch all of that because of all the happy things that are going on. And that's what they want. Right? That's their marketing scheme. They want you to see that when you take this drug, life goes back to normal or even gets better. Don't worry about the side effects. And that's all they want, is they just want people to try the drug, and it may even be out of good intentions, right? They just want you to try it so that it can fix this problem, and they just hope that you don't experience the side effects. And I think that we can fall into a similar pattern and a similar trap in the church. Because for the past few weeks, we've been talking about our mission, right, and our vision, seeking the next generations of disciples of Jesus, and how we want to be disciples and disciple makers and disciples who are making more disciples, seeking our next generation. But yet, in our efforts to seek the next generation, sometimes when we see a young Christian or a new guest or a non-believer or someone who's just new, someone we haven't seen before, we go and we preach the gospel to them, and we tell them about who Jesus is, but yet we sometimes avoid or forget mentioning the side effects. Now, I fall into this trap myself. As a young adults minister here, whenever I see a new young couple or a new young family or a college student, and they come to Bible class downstairs when I'm teaching, or they come to the Sunday morning service when I happen to be preaching, or they come to the young adults life group, whatever it may be, when I see someone new, immediately I start thinking, what can I say to make this person come back? What can I say that's not going to scare this person away? What's going to sound the most attractive to this person? And I thought, well, what did Jesus say when he had new people come to him, when he saw the crowds and they showed up? And man, it kind of shocked me. Because Jesus didn't say, hey, I'm so glad you're here. Come back next week. We've got this program going on for kids, and we've got this program going on for married couples, and we've got this event going on next week. You won't want to miss that. Oh, and don't forget to bring your friends. Jesus didn't say that. Jesus didn't tailor his words so that people would come back. He didn't try to hide the side effects. Instead, he started with them. People would come up to Jesus and say, Jesus, can I follow you? Please, can I follow you? And Jesus answered, well, foxes have holes and birds have nests, but I've got nowhere to sleep tonight. You sure you want to follow me? Because tonight I'm homeless. He didn't say, I'm so glad you're here. Come back next week. He said, instead, I'm going to be homeless tonight. And when you read the words of Jesus, when you go through the Gospels, you read the red letters, you see what Jesus said, you start to realize Jesus was direct. He did not hold back, and he sure sounded a lot different than some of the feel-good sermons that we so often like to hear. Maybe not here, but especially on TV. But he sounds different because he listed the side effects first. For example, look at Luke chapter 14 that was read earlier for us. So open your Bibles if you have them. Luke chapter 14, starting in verse 25. It says, now great crowds accompanied him, and he turned to them and said, and now think about this, right? There's thousands of people following Jesus, new people coming to him. This is his moment. Whatever he says to these people that are just starting to follow him, whatever he says will determine whether they continue to follow him or not. And the first words that he says to these new people, he says, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Those are his first words. Tons of new people are following him, and the first words that he says to them are, if you want to keep following me, you have to be willing to hate your father, mother, brother, sister. You love your wife, you love your kids. Well, I need you to love me more. That's what Jesus is saying. And then he says, how about your own life? Do you love your own life? Are you scared to die? Are you scared to lose your life so that you can find it in me? Because if you're scared of that, if you can't do that, then you can't be my disciple. But we see the crowds and we say, please come back next week. We try to keep them coming back. But Jesus sees the crowds and he says, are you sure you've got the right guy? I want you to know what you're getting yourselves into, because if you want to follow me, you have to put me so far above everybody else. He says, I need you to put me so far above everybody else. I know your kids are cute, but he says, I need to be way up here. Jesus tells a parable about the hidden treasure. He says that when someone goes and they find a treasure hidden in a field, and he sells all that he has in order to be able to purchase this field, and he buys that field and he gets the treasure. And Jesus is saying, if you understand that, then you realize that I am that treasure. Jesus says, I am the one that's worth giving up everything for. So he's just checking, like, hey, are you sure you're all in on this? Are you sure you've got the right guy? Because if you want to be my disciple, then you have to be willing to hate father and mother, brother, sister, wife, kids, even your own life. And then he says, if you don't bear your own cross and follow me, you can't be my disciple. Like, can you imagine? Just imagine, if you would, Jesus is standing in the back over there. He's leaning up against the counter, just watching what we're doing, looking at his sheep. And then he looks out that window and he sees the mountains. And he says, I'm going to be climbing that mountain later today. And I'm going to go up that mountain. I'm going to be carrying this big wooden cross. And I'm going to be nailed to it. And I'm going to die up there. That's going to happen tonight. And Jesus says, are you willing to come with me? Are you willing to grab a cross and walk up that hill with me and be crucified next to me? Because if you're not, you can't be my disciple. I need to know, are you in or are you out? I need to know that I'm here and the rest of your family, your wife, kids, brother, mother, they're down here. I need to know that if I'm heading up the hill with the cross, are you going to come with me? And that's kind of hard to hear, right? That's kind of difficult to hear because it's kind of shocking because we know Jesus as Redeemer and friend, right? Counselor and comforter. And yet he's saying these harsh words. And just in case you're thinking, well, is that really what he's saying? I mean, if we break down the word cross here, what does he really mean? Well, he doubles down. He says in verse 28, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying, this person began to build but wasn't able to finish. He's saying if you would never sit down, or you would never build a house without sitting down first and making sure you had enough money to finish it. And there's a house like that. We drive to Bozeman pretty often, and it's in between Townsend and Three Forks. It's right on the right side of the road. You can't miss it. It's this big, beautiful house with no windows, no doors. There's no grass, there's no trees, nothing growing around it. And it looks exactly what Jesus is talking about here. An abandoned house, and a house that was started but never finished. And it's embarrassing. Every time we drive by it, I think, man, what a waste. What a waste of money. What a waste of effort. What a waste of time. They must not have thought it through, how much it was going to cost them. And then Jesus says, in the same way, I need you to think it through about how much it's going to cost. Because as we become Christians, right, as we become Christians, we start walking our spiritual walk, we start building our spiritual houses, we live our spiritual lives. There comes a point in our walk with Jesus where maybe it's when the honeymoon phase of your faith ends, or it's when the emotional high from your baptism comes down, or maybe it's years into your faith. Whenever it is, there comes a moment in our Christian walk when we have to sit down and say, okay, now that I'm doing this, now that I'm following Jesus, now that I'm walking with Him, am I going to let this change me? Am I going to make the effort? Am I going to pick up my cross and walk up that hill with Jesus and be willing to die, or am I going to abandon this house project? And I think that we can fall into the trap of forgetting to tell people about the cost of following Jesus. And as we go and make more disciples, right? Disciples making disciples. As we're seeking the next generation, we forget, or we even avoid, telling people how much it costs. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that this is done in good intentions. Right? I think it's done with good intentions. Because I get it. There's a lot of people that I love that I want to follow Jesus. There's a lot of people in here that we love, that we want them to follow Jesus, and we want them to love Jesus so badly that we end up saying, come on, it's easy. Just come to church with me every Sunday, and when the preacher says, get up and go get baptized, just do it. And we forget to tell people about what it's going to take. And what happens is they get started building their house, right? And they realize, this is hard. God didn't give me a job like I thought He would. Or God didn't help me in my marriage like He thought He would. And God didn't give me this, or God didn't give me that like you told me He was going to. And they start feeling like God let them down. Because there's a teaching out there, especially in our country, that it's called the prosperity gospel. And it says, hey, if you follow Jesus, He's going to make everything great for you. He's going to make you healthy and wealthy and give you power, and everything in life will be easy. And as we can see in this passage, that's just not the case. It's just not the way it is. Jesus didn't teach us, hey, if you follow me, you can be healthy, wealthy, and have all this power. And life will just be great for you. Instead, he was honest, so painfully honest. He said, actually, no, if you follow me, life will probably get more difficult. He says that throughout the New Testament, throughout the Gospels, and he says in John 15, if they persecuted me, they will persecute you. If they start to hate you, it's because they hated me first. Jesus didn't say, follow me and you'll get a big, nice house. He said, if you follow me, you might not have a house at all. Does that sound like a prosperity gospel to you? No. He says if we're not willing to pick up our cross and walk up the mountain with Jesus and die up there right next to Him, then you can't be His disciple. If we're not willing to do that, then we can't be His disciple. That's why we need to figure it out now. Whether it be 30 years, 50 years, 100 years into our faith, or a couple days, couple weeks, couple months. We need to figure it out now. Count the cost of discipleship now, because you could lose your life. Your family could hate you for what He's asking us to do, but is it worth it to you? Figure it out now. And it's tough to be the disciple makers, right? The ones making more disciples, because it's our job to tell them the cost. And it's hard because maybe you've seen it before, but the cost of following Christ, as we've been talking about, is scary. It's a lot. And it's something that can drive people away. And we don't want the people that we love, to reject Jesus. We don't want our kids to grow up and reject Jesus. So we soften the blow like a prescription drug commercial. Or we leave it out altogether. And if you're still feeling like, I don't know, Colton, I'm not sure that this is exactly what he's saying, he triples down. He doubles down again. He says, or suppose a king is about to go to war against another king. Won't he first sit down and consider whether he's able to, with 10,000 men, to oppose the one coming against him with 20,000? And if he's not able to, he'll send a delegation, while the other's still a long way off, and ask for terms of peace. In the same way, those of you who do not give up everything you have cannot be my disciples. Jesus says, think about the battle that's set before you. Because He told His disciples, I'm sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves, right? Do you want to fight that fight? Do you want to be the sheep in a pack of wolves? Because that's what I'm doing. I'm sending you out into the wolves, and you're a nice, tasty sheep. Now, I've never seen a sheep outrun a wolf. I've never seen a sheep fight off or outrun or outlast a wolf. I've never actually seen a wolf, but that doesn't happen. Okay? The sheep on his own does not win that fight, ever. Unless he has a good shepherd. It only works if the sheep has a good shepherd, and the shepherd fights for him, and you, as the sheep, we as the sheep say, Shepherd, I need you to fight for me. Protect me with that staff, and comfort me as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. So Jesus says, I need you to be sure that you want to do this. Are you sure you want to go out and pick up that cross and carry it up the hill? Are you sure you want to keep building your spiritual house? Are you sure you're going to help others build their spiritual house? Are you sure you want to fight this fight? Because we're fighting the world. We're fighting the rest of the people. That's a lot of people. Their army is way bigger than ours is right now, because we are on the unpopular side. And then he says, Are you sure you want to give up everything that you have? Now that's one that he kind of sneaks in here. Are you willing to renounce all that you have? Because most of us have a lot. Some more than others, sure. A few years ago, Alana and I were blessed with the opportunity to go on a mission trip to Nicaragua. And while we were there, I met this woman. And all that this woman had, was a 10-foot by 6-foot concrete slab, which is about this big. That's everything she had. And on that, can you hand me my water? On that slab, she had all of the belongings that she had to her name. She had a lean-to, a makeshift lean-to that she built herself to keep the rain off of her bed. It didn't even cover the rest of the slab. It just covered her bed. So she had the slab, the lean-to, she had the bed, she had one pair of clothes and one pair of clean clothes, and she had a wood stove for making food. And we showed up to her house on a Monday, and we saw all that she had, and we had torn down that lean-to and completely built her a brand new house by Wednesday. It took us 3 days. That's all she had. And it would be very easy to walk up to her and say, give up everything you have because Jesus had something better. Yeah, that's easy. She's got 4 things. But how about for us? Hey, leave it all behind. Everything you have, all the stuff you have, all the comfort you have, all the relationships you have, leave all that behind because I've got something better for you. Can you do that? Can you give all that up to follow Jesus? These are the things that we have to ask ourselves. Now, here's where it got a little weird for me. In this passage, I understand the first part, right? I have to be willing to hate mother and father, brother, sister, wife, kids, and love Jesus more. I understand that. I don't like it, but I understand it. Take up your cross and follow me. I understand that. It's not going to be easy, but I understand it. Count the cost of building a tower. I understand that. Consider the battle that we're getting ourselves into. I understand that. Give up everything you have. I don't like that, but I understand it. And then he says, salt is good. Salt is yummy. What? He says salt is good, but if it loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is fit neither for the soil nor the manure pile. And it's thrown out. Whoever has ears to hear, let them hear. And at first, I thought, okay, in the context, this makes 0 sense. And in fact, actually, some different translations actually separate it out altogether, and they put it under a different heading and say that this happened at a separate time. But the more you study it, you realize this is actually the most powerful thing that he says in this passage. Jesus is looking at a crowd of people and telling them, if you don't love me more than your father, your mother, brother, sister, wife, kids, then you can't be my disciple. And if you're not going to be my disciple, then I have no use for you. If you're not ready to take up this cross or die in this battle, then you can't be my disciple and I have no use for you. And then he closes with, salt is good. And can't we all agree? Salt's great. I like salt. Salt, especially back then when they had no refrigerators around, salt preserved food, right? It kept food tasting good. It dehydrates things, so if you need things to dry out, use salt. You can use it to clean things. Use salt to clean your cast iron pans. I learned that recently. Salt is also great because it makes bad food taste a little less bad. Salt is great. But if it loses its flavor, what's the point? What good is flavorless salt? He says it's not even good enough to be thrown out on the ground, right? Because salt dehydrates things, right? So the dirt is good, and the dirt helps things grow, and the dirt you can work it into clay, and you can build with it, and animals burrow in it, bugs live in it, And Jesus says, don't take that flavorless salt and put it on the ground because you'll mess up the dirt. Dirt is free, but flavorless salt's going to mess it all up. You'll ruin it. He says, even manure is good. It fertilizes things. It helps the dirt grow. Makes plants. It reminds you that your nose still works. Manure is good. It serves a purpose. And he says, don't throw your flavorless, useless salt on the manure because you'll mess that up. Wow. It's worthless. There's no point. And if we don't take our discipleship seriously, we become flavorless salt. Now, I've got some salt here. I'll give you guys a little object lesson. This salt here is the good stuff. This is coarse ground pink Himalayan salt from Michelle's house. This is the good stuff. That's how you know. This is the good stuff. And then this bottle here we'll pretend is just flavorless salt. Okay? This is not the real stuff. This is not normal stuff. And I know it's in a sugar jar. It's salt. Flavorless salt. This is the fake stuff. So this is what we have, right? You guys see that? That's us. This is the good salt. This is everything we have. That's us. So what would be the point of this? Oh, don't worry. I slipped the cleaning lady at 20. What would be the point of this? Flavorless salt on top of the good stuff. There's no point to that, right? I can only think of one reason. Look how big my pile is. Look how big my pile is. Look at how amazing this is. This is what we do in churches. We say, look how big my pile is. My pile is bigger than your pile. This is awesome. Look at all the people that are coming to my church. Look at this pile. And you're like, pile of what? This is the fake stuff. There's good stuff under there. There's good stuff in there. But it's mainly fake stuff. And this is what happens when we, as disciples and disciple makers, leave out the cost of true discipleship. We get these great big piles of salt, but only a little bit of it is good. And so that's our job. Our job is to be disciples, always learning, always studying, always making the decision to take up our cross, and always walking up the hill next to Jesus and willing to die next to Him and following Him. But that's not our only job. We also have to make disciples. And as Jim said last week, Jesus said, go into every nation, baptizing or making disciples and baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that He commanded. Our job is to be disciples who make more disciples, to help them count the cost of building that spiritual tower, and to help them build, and to help them carry their cross, and to prepare them for the battle that's coming, and to help them stay good salt. And now while all of this is hard, remember this, it's worth it. It is so worth it. There's 100 people in this room that could vouch for that. It's worth it. Because when we say yes to Jesus, when we say yes to all of these things that Jesus is calling us to do, then we receive hope for His eternal life. When we put Christ on in baptism, we receive the gift of His indwelling Holy Spirit. Amen? Amen. So if you haven't done that, if you haven't taken up your cross, if you haven't started building your spiritual house, or maybe you're planning, maybe you're in the planning stages of your building, and you want to put Christ on in baptism, let me tell you, it's worth it. And if you need prayer or if you need anything else, then let it be known as we stand and sing.